daily and is a red moon, but that doesn't matter on the longs here because the long had already started way back here. We had our push, came down, another push, and then we had our big push, and now we have bottomed out once again. And now let's take a look at what the difference was here, because normally with the green trend and a bottomed RSI, we would be looking to go long here. So let's take a look here at this particular move right here. What's the difference here? And I'm going to mark this right here on the RSI. I'm going to mark the RSI here, and I'm going to make this a 2-point blue. All right, and I'm going to mark it right here. Because what I want to see here, guys, is what is the difference in this long pump versus this huge dip on what happened on the RSIs. So the daily RSI came down, which is great, but it didn't come down as much as these other pumps that did right here. So I'm going to put one more here and say, okay, this was another section of a pump from bottom to top where we got a nice pump, and then we had a pullback here that was still strong, right? So this was the big one right here. So let's see what the difference is. Let's slide over. First thing we're going to do is check our 4 hour, right? So now that we see this, what the 4 hour is doing, right? Here's the first one. The 4 hour was bottomed out. It started from the bottom. We got a big push, came down, push. Then right here, the 4 hour started to go down, and that's where we seen that bigger dip. Then we got another push with the 4 hour, came down, bottomed up, and then right here, this big pump was because the 4 hour once again was timed up with the daily, and they were both pushing up at the same time. That makes it a stronger push. Very simple, very, very simple. Now as we come across here, we can see the 4 hour played itself in, and right here is when the 4 hour gave up, right? And this is when the daily gave up, and that is what extended the pullback, and then the daily giving up, it gave it our extended pullback. Now in between that, let's go back to the daily and see where the daily is at its bottom, right? So while the daily has been bottomed out across the bottom, the 4 hour RSI is pushed up, had a little bit of a push, pulled back, pushed up, a little bit of a push, pulled back, had a little bit of a push, right? So currently right here, going off the 4 hour, because we are in a red trend and the daily is still on the floor, we have to go with the current movement of the 4 hour, which is a downward trend, right? Now, what happens when the daily is opposite from the 4 hour, right? So let's go look at it. The daily, let's take a look here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm only going to mark when the daily is at the bottom. I'm only going to mark when the daily is at the bottom, right? So I can see what the difference is on the 4 hour. So now when I look here, the daily's on the bottom, so's the 4 hour, we get a pump. The daily's on the bottom, so's the 4 hour, we get a pump, right? So now what I want to do here is let me do some trades here and see where when the 4 hour is at the top, right? I'm going to change this to red. So when the 4 hour is at the top and starts to come down, 4 hour at the top starts to come down, 4 hour at the top starts to come down, 4 hour at the top starts to come down, 4 hour at the top starts to come down. So now let me go look at the daily and see what's happening so that I can understand how this works. Okay. So 4 hour at the top right here, RSI at the bottom. We were able to pull back this much right here. Not too bad, a nice little pullback. Here, the 4 hour topped and the daily also came down. We got a massive pullback. 4 hour topped right here. The daily started pulling back. We got a little bit of a pullback. So these kind of coordinate with each other. So we get pullbacks when that happens, right? When it's opposite, right? When it's opposite, that's what we're looking for, is what happens when it's opposite, right? So far, they're coinciding. Now here's the opposite. The 4 hour pulled back, but the 1 hour or the daily pushed up, and what happened? The daily overrid the 4 hour. Right here again, the 4 hour is coming down, but the daily is heading up. The daily won again, right? So currently, what do we have? Currently, what's the problem? The thing is that when the 4 hour is going against the daily, it loses to the daily. So currently, as long as the daily continues to head down. So can we see something further than the daily? Okay, let's go to the weekly, right? To see how far the daily can go down, right? This is how you jump in here. Right now, the daily is on its way down right now. Look at the daily starting to bend down. Right there. See the daily? So that means that we have a longer downtrend on the 1 hour, which means now we can go look at the 4 hour and say, hey, what's going to happen here? 4 hour bend right here and heads down. That means we're going to get a short. So right now, this long trade is going to happen the moment the 4 hour goes sideways and it bends just like here, right? So the moment that repeats this pattern right here, you are going to have your short, and that short will more than likely be around that length. Okay, so that's what we're looking for right there. So an incoming matic short, which we already been calling all day, is incoming right now. That's what we're looking for. Repeating of that. So we do have a pullback. Now, how do we set up that trade, VC? Well, this is where you do your 20 to 30x short, right? And that's what we're looking for. And that's something we can do on, let's probably do KuCoin. Let me pull up KuCoin real quick. All right, so we're going to sign up in this real quick. Give me 1 second. I don't know why. Give me 1 second. Let me figure this out real quick. But that is what you would want to do to set up. So I'll make another video as soon as I can get this loaded up. But that is how you go into your shorts on your long. So right now, matic, as soon as this RSI bounces on the 4 hour and starts to head down and repeats that pattern, that will be a 10, 20, or 30x margin to the downside.